So this was an interesting, long time coming. Something that always amazed me even as a kid was the fact that Godzilla, one of the biggest Japanese franchises ever, which is saying a lot considering this is the country that also has Dragon Ball, Pokemon, and motherfucking Hello Kitty. By the way, did you know that Hello Kitty is not actually a cat, but it's just a girl in a cat suit? It's freaking weird. Anyway, I always wondered why Godzilla never had an anime adaptation in any way. I mean, I know about Monster Island Buddies, but I mean like a real shonen-esque attempt at making a fun, rich, and intelligent sci-fi monster anime about the Big G. Even America had two different Godzilla cartoons, one from the 70s, you know, the one with Godzuki, which is why everyone in the West thinks the name of Godzilla's son is Godzuki and not Minya. I don't think Godzuki was Godzilla's son to begin with, but it's one of those Mandela effect kind of things thanks to the cartoon. And then there was the cartoon based on the 90s American Godzilla movie, which actually is pretty good from what I remember. I actually like that movie too, despite it not really being Godzilla, but that's a whole other controversy. A couple of years ago, Netflix released what I consider to be the first real attempt at a Godzilla anime with the trilogy of films, of which I actually enjoyed the storyline a good amount, and I liked what they were going for. I just really hated the CG animation style and a bit of their execution with it. And now we have Godzilla Singular Point, a 13-episode season completely original and all its own, not using any previous incarnations in its continuity, telling a fun yet extremely convoluted story, all revolving around emerging kaiju in the world and, of course, Godzilla himself. So I'll be honest, I don't really know what the overall consensus of this anime is, either within the anime or the Godzilla community. I have seen very little in the way of reviews, and this video is just a fresh, off the top of my head after having completed the series a little bit ago. My overall impression is, it was fun. It was a fun series, but it didn't really give me what I wanted. It's kind of like going on a really great date and you think that they're a very fun person and you were really hoping you'd see a lot more of what their monster has to offer, if you know what I mean, and instead you get a ton of science exposition. Y'all ever been on dates like that? It's also weird. So look, we are introduced to a bunch of science and tech-savvy characters that are researching these strange occurrences of a signal that may have been sent from the past, a red dust cloud that's swarming in, and of course, some kaiju that are appearing spontaneously all over Japan. Our main character is Yoon Arikawa, whose look is taken right out of Gintama, and he's voiced by Johnny Young Bosch in the English dub, who I always think he does an amazing job in every anime that I've ever seen him in. His character is part of a team of programmers that have actually assembled a small mech to help them that they pilot, and eventually it gets its own AI and becomes its own character. Yeah, well, I'll talk about the AI in this series in a moment, but first we need to mention that this mech is, in fact, Jet Jaguar. If you don't know who Jet Jaguar is, bro, the level of memes that you're missing out on, for one thing. So other than Godzilla, this anime brings in a few other kaiju from previous Godzilla movies and does its own interpretations of them. Jet Jaguar was from Godzilla vs. Megalon, which is famous for being one of the cheesiest, and let's face it, one of the dumbest Godzilla movies of all time. But everyone knows it because it's been poked fun of to death. It was on Mystery Science Theater back in the day, and it seems to be the go-to Godzilla movie when referencing just how weird these movies got in the 70s. Jet Jaguar is essentially a robot. In the movie, he's a robot that can grow to gigantic sizes and fought alongside of Godzilla against the evil enemies. Well, here Jet Jaguar gets his sort of redemption arc from only ever appearing in one Godzilla movie. And I'm not kidding. If you had called this series Jet Jaguar, I think it still would have been an accurate title. The amount of screen time, fight scenes, and development that Jet Jaguar gets far exceeds any screen time for all the other monsters combined. This is obviously a strange choice for many reasons, but giving Jet Jaguar an infant-like curiosity and a heroic personality actually made him pretty endearing. He reminded me of like the Iron Giant or something. And also his fight scenes were pretty good. He's not fighting in a cheesy way, but he's actually out there using bladed weapons and ripping spider kaiju in half, and it's a great balance of wholesome and brutal. It never goes beyond that of a PG-13 style violence, but that's just fine. Godzilla has never really dipped into R-rated material, and I don't really think it needs to. Godzilla should be for virtually everyone, and there's so many different tones and styles to Godzilla films that anyone can find a style that they like. But yeah, a lot of your enjoyment of the series will be dependent on liking Jet Jaguar, and I think he's pretty likable. And 2, liking the human characters, because the humans get a lot of screen time, and the characters themselves, they are fun. Like I said, Yoon is a decent character to follow along with his team. The wild old man side character that originally pilots Jet Jaguar, they're all great. And there's Mei, who pretty much has the adorable big glasses, please cuddle me and be my waifu look to her. But her storyline that kind of goes parallel with Yoon's is so overly convoluted and full of exposition and science jargon that honestly it gets to a point where they are just talking so much about the science of why the kaiju are here that you just don't really care anymore. And that's the thing. I didn't care. I don't need a deep metaphysical reason as to where kaiju come from or how they work. I just need big monsters. Godzilla comes out of the ocean. That's all I need. Rodan comes out of a volcano. Good enough for me. But no, episode upon episode cuts to Mei and her AI companion. This time it's not a cool mech like Jet Jaguar getting a redemption arc, but a computer AI taking the form of a chibi dog character that is cute, sure, but every time they would come back on screen, I would start to be less and less interested, and it never really let up as the show went on. Alright, so let's talk about the kaiju. So the anime made a, let's call it an artistic choice, to do everything in 2D animation except the monsters, which are done in a CGI form. So as I kept watching the series, I got more and more used to it, and I don't really think it's as big a deal as it could have been. But having said that, I still do wish it was 2D. I think it really could have benefited from having the entire thing be all one consistent style. The noticeable difference from the 2D to 3D just made it feel like there was even more of a barrier between the humans and monsters, considering that most of the series is focused on the humans. And now for Godzilla himself. I actually really enjoy how they did not bring him in right away. I wanted a good build-up and a lead-in to Godzilla, and he doesn't show up for I think 5 or 6 episodes, and I was perfectly fine with that. When he does show up, and minor spoiler alert, they take a lot of influence from the movie Shin Godzilla, a movie that I absolutely love. But what worked about that film was also that it was a film. It was one movie. It was a good 2 hours, and I think that Godzilla's evolution felt terrifying because of how rapidly it was happening, and it was a state of biology that humanity was completely unprepared to deal with. It was scary. It was cool. In Singular Point, Godzilla has a few different forms as he evolves, but in this it feels way more dragged out, and once Godzilla becomes Godzilla, a recognizable form that we would know as Godzilla, he has about 1 episode where he's really tearing shit up and it's awesome, but then he is kind of sidelined for another 3 to 4 episodes as it focuses back on the humans until the final episode where I was expecting a fight between Godzilla and another monster. In most Godzilla films, that's a staple of the genre. Here, Godzilla does have one small fight that I won't spoil for you, but it's so quick and the CGI on CGI fight just doesn't look as good as it would have in 2D, and again, that's just my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. I liked the build-up, but once Godzilla was here, I wanted to see Godzilla do his Godzilla stuff. And I wanted to see more destruction and more fights, and yes, we do get those things, but it's extremely limited. There are moments that are completely exciting and full of intense energy that you would want, and they use the traditional Akira Ifukube Godzilla music and the roars from the original films for the monsters, which I always appreciate little details like that. You can tell that the creators were fans of Godzilla and the films and wanted to do their own take on it. Other kaiju that make appearances like Rodan and Gearus and Manda, and that's really cool to see, but don't expect a whole lot from them. And none of them really interact with Godzilla either, which is a real shame. I think the best thing I can say here is that I was entertained by the series, but I think if it were any longer than 13 episodes and continued down the path it was on, I probably would have had a harder time finishing it. I've always wanted a Godzilla anime series, and this one gives me little pieces and nuggets of flavor of what I want, but it just doesn't fully satisfy me. Again, I have no idea what the fandom thinks of this series as a whole. I'm going to be looking into that after I do my review. But I've been a huge Godzilla fanatic ever since I was 4 years old, and I'm a weeb at heart, so this should have been the best of both worlds, and in the end, it's okay. Somewhere in the middle. I'd say if you're a Godzilla fan, it's 100% worth checking out. At the very least, the kaiju designs are very interesting and cool to see the different takes on them. You do get a handful of really badass Godzilla moments. Also, if you were a fan of Jet Jaguar, then this is the series for you, without question. You know, I always expected Jet Jaguar to come back someday in some version of Godzilla, And I honestly don't see how it could have been done better than this version. Seriously, Jet Jaguar is the best part of the show, and that's so weird to say out loud. So anyway, if you have seen Singular Point, what did you think about it? Did it live up to your expectations? Were you let down by it? Do you praise the gospel of Jet Jaguar? What did you think of the CGI and how Godzilla was portrayed? Please let me know all of that down in the comments below, and if you haven't seen it and you're interested in checking it out, let me know that as well. I'd appreciate it also if you liked the video and commented on it, because that will really help me out. And if you'd like to subscribe to see more anime, manga, movie, and whatever else kind of content, please do that as well. Trying to make my way to 100K. We're getting there slowly but surely. Really appreciate it. Other than that, all the links, including Patreon, merch, Discord, yada yada, all that's in the description below. And other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.